Chickens waiting for their food. I took this in last night. As I said before, the messy eaters, if they do leave some, you don't want any chance for rodents to get at it. And on top of that, you can mix it in with the fresh, because they're fussy eaters and they will leave it, as we do with the end bits of bread. Sometimes they will deliberately get the new stuff and leave the old stuff. They are intelligent enough for that. And you can obviously see the blue one has to wait its turn. It's bottom of the pecking order. Nice sky today. It is rather chilly, but yeah, nice sky to wake up to do these chickens. It's always enjoyable when it's like this. Yeah, I've just had one of the brown ones lay an egg. I've got to clean the nest boxes out. They've obviously made a mess in them overnight. But yeah, I've got that egg to get, and we're going to have a little chat about, is it worth keeping chickens? Yeah, I suppose at the end of the day, this is what it's all about, fresh eggs. But we still need to have a discussion about, from particularly how people talk these days about chickens, is it worth your while keeping chickens? Right, it's a cold, gloomy day. There's not much going for it, to be honest with you, because it's windy, it's grey. I've done a few chores around the house, and like I said, I was going to talk about chickens and eggs, as comical as that sounds, or even meat, shall I say. The thing is, a lot of people will always say to you, you've got chickens, you're self-sufficient and all that kind of stuff to you, and oh, that must be fantastic that you can look after yourself with a bit of meat and eggs and everything like that. But the reality is far from that, and far from the truth of what you are led to believe by, shall we say, well, if you watch other videos on YouTube and things like that, YouTubers will proclaim that they're self-sufficient, they're going to get some chickens and everything's going to be, you know, they'll never have to buy eggs, meat, and it won't cost them nothing, and the likes. But that is one big fallacy. It doesn't take you very long, if you're owning chickens, to do the equations. Well-known supermarkets will pump 6 eggs out, half a dozen eggs, for roughly around about 80p. The, you know, shall we say, free range, and as you move up the quality of eggs and the welfare of the chickens, obviously they become a little bit dearer. But even then, when you look at the economics of yourself producing that egg, you will struggle to match that, and I'll explain that. Right, I've got 3 complete days. If I was to burn a complete day, back to back 3 days there, what's the relationship between that and my chickens down there? The relationship is, a fire is lovely to look at, but you've got to do some work to actually have that fire. You've got to cut the wood. If you're harvesting it, you're going to have to harvest it. It's going to cost money and fuel. If you're buying wood in, it's going to cost money. It's going to cost you time stacking the wood, getting it all ready to go in. Indeed, just bringing it in. It costs you energy, time, thought, and it ain't just what you assume is absolutely free and obviously not going to cost you any energy or effort to get. That ain't true with firewood. Just having a fire, you have to put some effort in to get it, and indeed some cost. That is the same with chickens. The idea that you can just get a couple chickens, let them roam about your garden, shall we say, because I'll predominantly be talking in the vein of small chicken keeping, and you're going to get something back, is pretty much a fallacy. The cats have retired inside as well. They're not even, shall we say, going to chance the weather out there. So I'm just going to shut the door here, give them a bit of no wind, and I'm going to come in here and discuss one thing. And it's... I've got my chicken feed in here. I'm not going to name the brand because I get it for roughly about £8 a bag. I'm not going to discuss the brand because of the price, because that is basically the price of it, and I use pellets. But that's subjective. Some people would say you need to pay more to get a better quality feed. I kind of disagree with that because of how I keep my chickens and feed them. But yeah, this my feed, shall I say, is something that works for me. Right, I've come back inside. Basically, it's shocking weather out there. Yeah, to carry on from that feed, I can get away with it being cheaper because my chickens have access to grass that we pick and throw in there, and in underneath I put through the summer my grass clippings in the main run. It rots down over the winter, and within an inch of depth there's worms, bugs and everything, and you know, that's how they supplement their diet. Obviously, if you aren't able to give your chickens that kind of nutritional value through the means like I've described, or letting them go free range, you may have to pay more for feed to obviously supplement their diet with the full range of shall we say nutrients and proteins and everything that they need. So a better quality feed may be a necessity for you, but that's something that you would have to establish or see how you feel with your setup. Now, my setup was salvaged from my father-in-law, who gave us that quite simply because he needed to separate his flock due to a hen having a young one, and he just wanted that gone because of his main flock, and he didn't have the time or energy to go into that. So we took that on. You will have to buy a housing setup, and that can range anywhere from £100 right the way up through to several £100, indeed beyond that, depending. The sky's the limit on your chicken house and coop. If you're going to make it yourself, you've got to factor in the price of lumber at the minute and everything that comes with that. And that's not going to be cheap doing that. The new plastic varieties of housings, which you see a lot of people online have got, very nice and, you know, very modern, but they come with a price, and quite often they're not, shall we say, exhaustive in what you get. You buy the accessories and everything to go with it, to obviously give you the setup that you need. I will always salvage, make do and mend, and look for free stuff on the free sites, and then shall we say manufacture, overcome, adapt, and just, shall we say, make something out of reclaimed, upcycled wood and shall we say wire mesh. And I shall find stuff basically to manufacture my next setup, because mine is coming to the end of its life cycle. You will have to pay to set up. So if you've got to factor in, if you're thinking your eggs or your meat is going to be make the cost savings towards getting your housing and run and set up, you'll have a long way to go as the average chicken keeper before you even make any of that back. If you're selling beside the road, like you see people, like, you know, £1 for a dozen eggs, that might go some way to the cost of the feed, but you then have to factor in how many chickens do they have to get, you know, a steady supply for a customer. Because if a customer's coming to your place because they know you've got a dozen eggs every day or every other day, and suddenly there isn't eggs there, you know, they will just turn around and find somewhere else to go, or go into the local supermarket and for 80p get some eggs. So you can understand, you can start to see what I'm saying. So you're probably thinking, if I'm being negative, what is the point of having chickens? Well, it's the fact you're going down to get those eggs. It's the fact you're producing them yourself. It's the fact of the routine. It's the fact that it's something you're doing yourself. You know where those eggs are coming from. It's that first step on, shall we say, the agricultural ladder. It's that first step to animal husbandry. You're partaking in something which is giving enjoyment to yourself. If chickens are pets, that's another topic, and you're getting eggs from that and you don't mind paying out regardless because they are a member of the pet. They're a pet and a member of your family. That's fine, because cost starts to become irrelevant. But if you're like me and many others, those chickens have to be reasonably cost effective. I enjoy, like everything about keeping the chickens, but they're not wholly and solely a pet. I am keeping them for a reason, which is eggs for myself. If you're going to keep them for meat, you've got to bear in mind, how many chickens you have to keep yourself supplied with meat, and the length of time you're feeding them from, shall we say, a young bird till they get to the age where they can be harvested for their meat. How much feed are you putting into that situation before you get the reward of the meat? And then again, how many meals are you planning? So how many chickens do you need to keep? You can quite easily see that could you be getting a chicken cheaper from a supermarket? Obviously, you will know where your chickens come from because you're feeding it. But, it's all these questions and costs that you have to put into the equation before you see the reward. Well, this is what I've got so far today in this midday. I've got 5 hens and I've got 2 eggs. We're just after Christmas, so we're in the winter period, and like I was saying about could you supply enough eggs, well, the fact of the matter is I'm getting 2 at the moment. In the summer I can expect 5, but this time of year some of the hens drop off. They've gone through their molting phase where they're losing feathers. They stop production. I've got 2 chickens which are slightly older, and they're just beginning to get that to the point where they're dropping off. I got 2 young ones which are really on the cusp of their maximum production, and I've got the blue one, which cream leg bar, which gives about 3, maybe 4 a week when it's in full production, and that's a blue egg. Yeah, with chicken keeping, a lot of people still have that romantic idea that you're just going to let a few just run around and they're just going to toodle into the shed, pop a few eggs out. But this day and age, that type of keeping chickens has disappeared long ago. I mean, you're under a lot of obligations if, shall we say, the ministry calls a crackdown on keeping your chickens. They got to be undercover. So you've got to be able to account for them. They just can't, be willy-nilly. On top of that, you do have the welfare of the chickens. Chickens of yesteryear when we had our grandparents used to just, have a little box with a bit of covering over them, and the chickens would disappear wherever, over the neighbours' hedges, and not be seen for half the day and then come back and put an egg in their nest box, Those kind of days are gone, let us say, and you'd be extremely, shall we say, classified as irresponsible if you weren't fully, aware of where your chickens were at all moments of the day. Obviously, if chickens are running around a farmyard and they go in the hay barn and lay eggs and sleep there, and they're pretty much classified almost as feral, but they're hanging around the farmyard, that's still considered normal. But for the backyard chicken keeper, you can't just have them running everywhere and not expect some kind of fallout from people, saying that you're irresponsible. And then indeed, this day and age, you would be classified as being irresponsible if you didn't have some kind of knowledge of, shall we say, containing and, shall we say, knowing where your chickens are at all times. And indeed, their safety and welfare included in that. Yeah, chickens will need some sort of basic health care. Possibly, you might get sometimes a chicken that'll go through with not an issue, but sometimes you may need to deal with things like mites and, shall we say, any other ailments they get, which you can quite easily get information online and do a certain amount yourself. Chickens, though, how can I put it this way? If they're pets and they become ill and you take them to the vets, which is, I guess, normal practice for some people, that's going to cost you, obviously, the vets are going to charge you, and you will have to factor that into keeping chickens as well. For myself, I do all my own, shall we say, medical care. But I have found chickens that, shall we say, are one of those animals that they can be brought back from illnesses, and you do everything you can, but ultimately they're one of those animals that when they do reach a point where illness has taken hold, they're not the most, shall we say, robust. Once a chicken becomes ill, it can become ill and within hours succumb to that illness. I guess, most chicken keepers have experienced that. And it's sad, but it's part of chicken keeping and part of the husbandry. Ultimately, prevention is better than cure with chickens. Yeah, just to wrap this up, if you're keeping chickens and you think that you're going to be making savings by keeping them, I can categorically say more than likely not. Chickens will cost you. The fact you're keeping the chickens is quite simply down for the fact you know where the eggs and the meat has come from, and the enjoyment of keeping the animal itself, and the fact of the routine, the fact that you've got that animal husbandry side to it. You're helping, shall we say, them live the best quality of life, and it's that enjoyment. You're going to have to get up, wind, rain, to go and feed them in the mornings, check for eggs a couple times a day, and on top of that, all the costs that we've just discussed will be borne by yourself on your shoulders, and you won't see that money back. But like I said, you have to find that reason in yourself and the want and desire to keep chickens. If you're a small time chicken keeper, now if you're living off grid and you've got chickens running all over the place, the likelihood is you're still going to be buying chicken feed if you want any kind of egg production. And you're probably even then still going to have to provide them a safe home and the security, which is going to cost money in itself. On top of that, you've got to look after and provide the means for them to evade predators and on top of that, stop the animals that want to live with them. So you've got that to factor in. And on top of that, the modern day, time is money. So basically any bit of time you're dedicating to the chickens, in retrospect, that's time not being diverted to other projects or other things that you might want to do. So you have to weigh all that up as well. So are chickens worth keeping? From my point of view, yes. I like the animal husbandry and I like to know where my eggs have come from, and I enjoy the excitement going down to see if there's an egg or two. And it's the routine. Do you enjoy the routine? Whether that be or is the case for yourself, that's something you will have to find out. But I would strongly suggest you have a long hard think if you think you're going to be keeping chickens and making your money back on eggs or making a saving on eggs. You would have to have a lot of birds, but then again, like I said, you'd be feeding a lot. So yeah, I hope I gave you some food for thought there if you're a new time chicken keeper or looking to get into chickens and you've got visions of, shall we say, making a massive saving on eggs and things like that. I'm not trying to put people off. I'm just trying to say you need to be going into chicken keeping for the right reasons, really, rather than wholly, trying just to do it to, should we say, save yourself a few bucks on chicken products like meat and eggs, because at the end of the day, you're not going to make those savings. You will find yourself discouraged and possibly not be, shall we say, the best overall person to be keeping chickens at that point. So yes, I would always give it a second thought if that's ultimately your aim as a small time chicken keeper. Obviously, bigger concerns obviously come with a whole different raft of, shall we say, considerations. And I'm not experienced to discuss those. I'm only ever going to talk about things as a small time chicken keeper. So I hope that gave you some insights into it and some food for thought. And I'm going to leave it there and go and check the chickens, see if I've got any more eggs. Cheers, Andy.